Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. My name's Anders Varner, here with Doug Larson, Coach Travis Mash, Matt Hesse, and we are out in the middle of northwest Arkansas on 450 acres. There's about 500 cows behind us, and we didn't just drive out to the middle of nowhere for any reason. Matt Hesse is building the vision of Fitops, and we are, I guess, the first people to bring some cameras out here and introduce this to the Barbell Shrugged community, and I'm really excited to I feel like you guys walked into quarantine. We were all on our way down for class 11 to meet more vets, and then they shut the world down.
Yeah.
And it may feel like Fitops slowed down a little bit, but in reality, I feel like you hit the gas pedal, and this thing's grown in scope. We're at this beautiful piece of property, and I'm really excited to see kind of where you're going, where your vision's headed for mental health and helping veterans in that transition and just the overall Fitops mission. But before we get into it, make sure you go back and check out episode 444. That's when we had Matt Hesse. And then from about 444 till about the next 7 shows, we had 7 people from the Fitops camp and really the high-level understanding of what they have going on. But for people that haven't heard of Fitops or maybe finding this show for the first time, what is really the high-level mission of Fitops?
Well, first, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate all your guys' support and continued coverage of our mission. So, in a nutshell, the foundation, the original concept of what this now is being built into was built around the struggle in veterans transitioning from the service, and a lot of that transition and challenge is loss of purpose, and trying to help the men and women who protect and serve our country reorient it back into civilian life is I'd say the primary mission, along with helping them find new purpose again. And so the overarching plan was built around obviously the suicide epidemic that is gripping the veteran population, and now during COVID worse than ever. A lot of the struggle and transition is related to loss of purpose and finding something you can put your heart and soul into in the way that you did while serving your country. And so the mission is to reduce suicide, and the means in which we're doing it is through fitness. And our belief is that by taking them out of the chaos of civilian life and back into a controlled environment where we can help them invest in them mentally, physically, and emotionally, that allows us to then invest resources from a vocational perspective, build them into trainers. And so that's ultimately what the camp originally was about, and what we're here today to talk about and explain is where we're going with it now.
Yeah. And you guys have had 10 camps, which is about 30 people, and at each camp, so roughly 300 people go through the program. And now all of a sudden we come up on this quarantine. How are you guys able to keep everyone together, and the systems that probably just were moving and building? There has to be some sort of transition to keep the entire crew together and keep that mission running. What were a little the problems you guys were facing and going into this quarantine in this tough 8 months, and how you were able to really keep that tight-knit group together?
Yeah, I mean, I think you used a word when we first started the show around community, and I think that's what we built. Our team, Johnny Martin, who you've interviewed, is our director of aftercare. We're doing a lot of Zoom classes, and we like everybody are adapting and doing what we can to keep that community tight. We're a group that have been built on our shared service in the military, and so you take a soldier from anywhere and you put him into a room, he'll find the other soldier, and all of a sudden they're best buddies. And so I think just by nature of the people that we have involved in this, I think they naturally gel together, and our programming originally we're graduating them as platoons, so they all have in the military we have something called a battle buddy, which is the person we go through basic training with. We have sort of a battle buddy system at camp, and that the squads inside the platoons are really tight. So I think they're supporting each other on sort of a squad level, and then as an organization, we're, as you said, busy building we're taking this time to build the future of the program. And so our director of operations, Harrison, who you've spoken with before as well, and I have been doing a lot of exciting stuff, planning for the future, and inside of that work is some really exciting culturally building programs, and so everybody within the organization is like really excited about what we're about to do, and that trickles down into the community. So doing the best we can.
Last night at dinner, you were saying you live your life based on morals, ethics, and values. Yep. How do you ensure, especially as the organization grows, that those morals, ethics, and values are still infused through the whole organization culturally? You mentioned community a minute ago. Like, how do you ensure, especially as it gets bigger, where you may not be doing the hiring, and you're not doing all of the leading? How do you make sure that those values stay consistent as you grow?
I mean, I really believe that the most authentic you is the best way to lead, and I'm myself, and I always have tried to stay. Not even tried. I just live that way myself, and I think when you live that way, you attract other people who live that way as well. And I'm quite proud and very confident that the team I have, as we scale, it'll just filter down through the organization, and will continue to be that way. So the good thing about good energy is it attracts other good energy. The good thing about bad energy is it doesn't attract if you don't have it. So I think that's just a easy fundamental skill, not even skill, just something that you have, and I believe it makes ours is unique to us, and it'll make this organization unique, and it'll stay there as we scale.
Yeah, one thing it looks like you guys did a ton of, I want to say it was probably around the June, July mark, early summer. It looked like you were building like a board of directors with some very high-ranking military officials. Can you walk us through that process and who you were looking for and kind of some of the partners that you brought on?
Yeah, sure. This program started as a nonprofit trying to reduce suicide through the purpose and power of fitness. Ironically, or not, maybe back to purpose and why we're doing this. I transitioned and have lived my whole life around understanding who I am physically and where I want to take my body, understanding who I am mentally and how I'm going to invest in myself intellectually from a knowledge perspective. And then maybe the most important piece is on the sort of spiritual or emotional level of understanding who I am, where I came from, why I am the way that I am, and how do I not necessarily improve, but understand those things. There's a lot of trauma in all of us. Everybody grows from their trauma, and that's how I think human beings. The beautiful thing about humans is when you have trauma in your life, you can either go a bad way and start traumatizing other people, or you can go a good way and you can help people. And I think the whole of the military service, especially in the enlisted ranks, are folks who have had, come from backgrounds of some sort of trauma, and they want to help other people versus hurt other people. And serving people is helping people. And so when you take someone out of the uniform and put them into civilian life, even in a lateral job into the exact same job they were doing in the service, they've now lost the ability to serve a greater purpose. And I think that's just the crux of the whole struggle. And so one of the, as you guys are coaches, the power of coaching and the power of changing someone's life through their physical body. It changes them mentally and it changes them emotionally. And so
I have a guy, I actually told him all about Fitops now since we've been here, but his name is Wayne McCulloch, and he was a Apache pilot. And so he's been through a lot of stuff, just like all of you guys, to hear his stories, it appears that like 50% of his friends, get killed in action. But so I'm telling him about this whole plan, and my question is like, once they go through the program and they get the certification, are they placed in do you guys have a placement? How do you follow up with them? What happens when it's over is what I'm saying.
Well, it's not over. As I said, we're building a community, and communities are built around the desire to share and help other people.
Right.
At least the kind of community that we're building. So when you graduate from our program, yes, you have an accredited certification from a nationally recognized organization like NASM.
Yeah.
And you have a certificate from Fitops called a CVFO, which is a Certified Veteran Fitness Operative. That gives you your basic, we'll call it basic training level of training. So you have an understanding of how to train someone physically, but you also understand how to connect with them on an emotional level. And you guys know great coaches are not just great body coaches, they're great mental coaches. Probably one of the most important and maybe underdeveloped or overlooked areas of coaching is how these books don't teach you that. You can't get into a NASM book and nothing, any of these accreditations, and it doesn't talk anything about how to connect with the consumer or your client emotionally, because that's where your barriers are going to break through. So our program is designed from end to end to be everything you'd need to be, certified and qualified as a trainer, plus all of the tools of how to market yourself, how to become a leader in your community, how to, build a resume, how to interview for a job. All the skills are all kind of wrapped up into one big program. And that, I think, you can't get that in any other certification program.
I totally see it. He worked for me too. He worked, was one of our coaches and excelled. And like every person in my gym loved this guy because he just had that ability. All of you guys have the ability to like push people and like in a good way, push them in and get them to do things that they never thought they could do. He had that. I think once he could get some of the science a little bit more and then the understanding the marketing end of it, he would be incredible.
Well, that's why they brought in Nate, and we interviewed him last week. This will probably air before then, but Nate Palin, he's the new strength coach and bringing in the full program. How did you guys find him? Because I feel like one of the biggest issues with so many certifications and processes like this is it's a weekend certification. And he's actually got a 2-month long onboarding before they even get here, and then it's 3 weeks of super intense training, hands-on, actual cueing, working with athletes. How did you guys find him and come across him?
So, as we start to look at expansion of our program, you asked the question, how do we keep them engaged? This isn't a quick hit, you're graduated and you're out. Yeah. This is a lifelong journey of investing in them in all of the physical, mental, and emotional ways that I believe will change someone's life. One of the exercises which we're introducing this year, which is a formal process around helping each of them have a roadmap, is what we call purpose blueprinting. And purpose blueprinting is understanding who you are physically and where you want to take your body physically and how you're going to get there. So a set of goals and tools. Who you are mentally, where you want to go mentally and intellectually, and a set of goals and tools there. And then who you are emotionally, understanding where you're at and where you want to go emotionally, and in terms of investing in your soul and in your spirituality, and not from a religious perspective necessarily, but from a understanding, maybe it's trauma, understanding emotion, understanding. So, that purpose blueprint will give them a framework, and it's not that that's going to deliver you your purpose, but it will give you a set of strategies and goals that are, tangible, that you can come back multiple times to our program and see how you're making an improvement or how you want to adjust against that blueprint.
You mentioned the 8-week lead up and then the 3-week intensive. Is that the same as the fitness university you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. So Nate Palin is our director of education, and he is a Army vet himself. He was a Ranger for 7 or 8 years. Came out, and while he was serving in the Ranger battalions, he found that the lack of tactical expertise from a training perspective within the units was significant in causing skeletal injury and taking soldiers out of service because they weren't trained correctly from a mobility and tactical perspective. They were trained, basic training, push-ups, sit-ups, and running is the sort of test to get into basic training and pass. So, as you guys know, that's not a very good measurement of how strong you are from a tactical perspective when you're, everything soldiers do is training for combat. That's their job, to protect our country. And so if you don't have the ability to move with, what is now a very different situation from what it was, 50 years ago, kits now, what soldiers are wearing, it's 25, 30 pounds heavier than it was back then. So, I think even just that little change requires a pretty big change in programming to train them up so that they're able to do their jobs. And so, he came out and went through school, got his master's degree in kinesiology, went to Exos for a few years, and then actually worked inside a Ranger battalion, and then NSCA, which is probably the most recognized accreditation platform, recruited him to build and refine the tactical athlete, which is what now called TSAC, which is probably the most widely recognized military or first responder training program.
Isn't there a brand new way of testing soldiers now, like actually trap bar deadlifts? It's like a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, Army Combat Fitness Test.
Right. What's that? What is that about?
So it's a test designed to more closely simulate what kind of strength, mobility, speed you would need in a combat situation, and so it's a better gauge of the health and deployability, physicality of the soldiers that we currently are training than push-ups, sit-ups, and a run. So dead bar, a deadlift on a hex bar, power throws, drag and carry.
That's awesome.
All the, I think it's a better representation of what they actually will need to have in their toolkits. And so that gets implemented this year. And our programming, ironically, the Army's program that built that is called H2F, Holistic Health and Fitness, and it's sleep readiness, nutrition readiness, spiritual readiness, mental readiness, and physical readiness. So the 5 pillars that we all believe and know are important for all aspects of training and recovery. Our program was already built to do exactly that.
Perfect.
We're doing all of those things at Fitops camp anyway. So it's a perfect, sort of symbiotic relationship between what we're doing here and what they're training for there.
Yeah, as you guys have grown and brought on kind of this new board of directors, has some of the government officials really woken up to the mission of what's going on here and I guess been allies in this? Because I can see there obviously is a massive need, but you're going to need external help of bringing awareness to what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one that Harrison was really focused on as he transitioned out. We've got 22 million veterans in the population now who are transitioning and struggling. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then you have 3-4 million service members that are currently serving that are going to transition eventually. Our mission is to reduce suicide in general using the purpose and power and fitness. So how do we address this issue and get ahead of this one and turn the spigot off?
Yeah.
So you asked earlier about the generals and the high-level military folks we've brought in. Everybody who's served suicide has touched them in some way, and it's a really sad situation to have someone who was called to serve, did that, and comes back and can't find a way to feel fulfilled in serving in their civilian life. And then the issues, suicide doesn't just happen to someone. It's not they're predisposed to it. Everybody has a different level of mental strength and health. But suicide doesn't start with waking up one day and saying, I just think I'm going to kill myself. It's an iterative process and decline, which starts with, in my opinion, losing purpose. So what do you get up for every day? How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about what you're giving back to the world? And if you transition with no strategy, you actually just don't have a way to serve.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's the first piece. So let's say you lose that, and then, physicality and being, training is such an important part of my day. It has been my whole life, and keeping myself mentally healthy. We all know the studies that are out there on the effect of physical training on mental health. And so we have to train every day, PT in the service. And when you get out, that's no longer required.
Yeah.
And I don't think they really realize how detrimental that's going to be. So they're like, I'm out. I don't have to do PT anymore.
Finally don't have to wake up. Yeah.
Put on 20 pounds. All of a sudden they're feeling bad about themselves physically and mentally. And then all of a sudden, they're not able to do even the job that they got because they're overweight. They don't have any energy, so they lose their job. Now they're obese. They're making bad choices, eating bad things. Mental health continues to decline. Lose the wife, lose the girlfriend, husband, boyfriend, and pretty soon, it's very easy to see how you went from this to that, but you didn't really see it happening because it was little iterations.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we have to get ahead of is to not transition and lose purpose. And I think there's several career paths you can go down where you can still serve other people, and training is one of them.
I feel like the private sector in things like this is really the most positive way, because I feel like business is just the best tool to building something that can help the most people. When you have a great product and a great service like this, you have the ability to help more people. And when you are able to partner up with the government and create some sort of feeder system, but are there, contracts out there for private contractors and organizations like this to actually be able to say, here's a 5-year window where we really get to dig into this, this issue that we know we have, and instead of having like short-term fixes, which is like your 30-day exit strategy, like are there contracts being bid on a larger scale of saying, here's your 5-year contract so we can really dig into this problem?
Unfortunately, the DoD's mandate is to train and deploy soldiers, not to protect our country. They're like any other job. You don't get a transition strategy out of a job at Walmart. You get a transition strategy out of a job at GNC. So it's, while we all look at the DoD and say like, you need to do a better job, and they do. I think that's totally a fair thing to say. But that's not their mission and mandate.
Yeah.
And the VA is really, think of doctors. Their job is to treat illness.
Yeah.
And mental health has just become something, I don't say it's new, but they're a treatment-based organization, and they're not equipped yet holistically from a health perspective to treat what we just talked about.
Yeah.
So you have over here the VA, which is a treatment-based organization, and over here the DoD, which is, that's their job isn't transition.
Gap.
And down here is what I call the Valley of Death, and the Valley of Death is unfortunately exactly that. It's suicide in soldiers who have nowhere to go. And so what we're trying to do at Fitops is build bridges and help them make a transition in a healthy way. So you ask about programs. Because of those two things and that gap in the middle, there are no programs. So I think our program, and hopefully others see what we're doing and build different versions of it in different areas. And I think that the specialness of our program is yes, we're training them for a job skill and being amazing coaches and personal trainers, but really what we're doing is using physicality as a foundation, just like we had in the service, for them to build their new lives off of, whether that is as a trainer or a coach, or as in a different job, and using physical health and training every day to keep mental health strong, and whatever their purpose blueprint ends up being.
Yeah.
We're networking into the DoD and the VA in the places that we can. Again, our mission and mandate is to reduce suicide. So whatever means necessary, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And the generals and the high-ranking enlisted folks who we've connected with, Command Sergeant Major Troxel, who was the outgoing SEAC, and the last 4 years has become a really big help and partner to us. You guys should interview him. He's an amazing guy and had an amazing career. But he's suicide touched him in his a lot in the role he was in, especially in the last 4 years. His job was really keeping the Joint Chiefs informed on troop readiness and lethality and deployability across all the forces, not just the Army. And so that job gave him a pretty big window into what's happening, and also into all of the forces. And so each force has some different struggle. The National Guard, our citizen soldiers, they're struggling probably the most relative to suicide, and there's a few reasons for that. So
really, I'm actually interested in that. I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some new reports coming out from COVID, but a lot of the citizen soldiers obviously have other jobs, and they're a younger force. Part of the struggle in keeping National Guard and Reserve folks inside, they only train for 2 days a month, and so we talk about physicality and its effect on mental health. If they're only training for 2 or 3 days a month, how are you? And you go home for 28 days. You guys know as coaches,
Yeah.
you eat like shit for 28 days, but the 2 days I have you, you're good to go. That's not going to change your life. And so I think it's actually just they have all the pressures of civilians and soldiers. And they only have 2 days of actual training, and so I think that it's it's a struggle to keep them physically fit. And they're 40% of our fighting force.
Yeah,
and that's a big part of.
Man, I had no idea. 40%.
Yeah, they deployed a ton over the last 10 years, and so they have their families are at home. They're not conditioned necessarily to leave, but yet they are, and then they come back, and they've sort of got this start and stop life.
So it's like if you're enlisted and this is your job, the wife and the kids,
the continuity, they all experience it,
and they know that things are going to happen. But if you're like National Guard, like the wife might not even be thinking that you're about to get deployed. Next thing you know, something happens, and now you're gone for a year. And then you got to come back. I can see how that would be way more challenging. It's not prepared,
So that's a place where I think we can really help. Our organization is built to do this. So we're pitching in where we can, and we've met with a bunch of folks from the National Guard and the reserves, and we're trying to help them understand all of the pieces of H2F and our program. And if we can figure out a way to deploy some of the skills and tools we've used into their programs, then we'll do that, because ultimately we got to get ahead of suicide, and that includes enlisted.
What was it like for you? Post, now you're out and now you're a civilian.
So
what was that transition like?
I transitioned through a trauma. My mom got in a really bad car accident, and so one of the skills we talk about is compartmentalization and the ability to seal it up and move on. And so I didn't. A lot of that time in my life, I don't even remember, because I was dealing with the trauma of my mom's accident. She was quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down. I'd been in service maybe 18 months. So, I transitioned through that. I did the rest of my 4 years and then transitioned and took care of her.
Right.
So, I used physical fitness all the way through that. And I remember specifically for my entire life that when struggle came up for me, I used training to beat it down.
Yeah.
And so, I just think it's such an effective tool. Obviously there's a lot of tools, therapy, et cetera. But
we interviewed Dr. John Rady that wrote the book Spark, and they're like actually doing the real research on the connection between physical fitness, mental health.
I need to meet that dude.
And he's
a
out
great
by you
dude.
right now. He works at Harvard Medical School. That's where he does all of his research, but he's actually in LA right now. And he wrote the book Spark, which was basically the connection between, the different layers of the brain, from prefrontal cortex getting deeper, how BDNF, when you actually exercise, connects it all. And really, exercise isn't just, it has very little to do with the physicality, and it's more about the connection in mental health and emotional health that goes along with how your brain is structured and the proteins that it builds while you're doing fitness.
Yeah, like it increases dopamine. Dopamine is like obviously that is the neurotransmitter that where you find joy, or you get a sense of gratitude. Yep. And like if that's limited, then things get super bleak. And so exercise helps a lot with the brain. Not only that, but it's helping ADHD. Exercise is great for a lot of different mental problems.
One of my life goals is to do the research. One of my life goals and a goal of our foundation is to do the research and take that research and specifically on the effect of our program, and take it to Congress and lobby to get gym memberships for veterans after they transition for a certain period of time. I believe that while people may say gym membership doesn't cost a whole lot of these vets don't. It's not just that they don't have well-paying jobs and that the transition struggle is causing financial hardship. It's just the ease of access. So go to the VA. The VA has a bad rap because it's a bad experience. It's just it's not a high level of care. It's not that the doctors don't care. It's that there's so much overwhelmed. It's an overwhelmed situation where Harrison just transitioned. He's been to 25 different VA appointments to stay on insurance. And at some point that becomes so frustrating. They're just like, you know what, fuck it.
Yeah.
And it's just.
I had one doctor's appointment yesterday for my shoulder, and I almost said, fuck it.
I know.
I'll just let it heal, whatever happens.
but so that's a good gym membership may be a small thing, but listen, if I truly believe that if we study the effect of these programs on mental health, that it will reduce suicide, it will reduce healthcare costs, and the cost of giving a gym membership away to a veteran for 2 years will be nominal in the savings that it will create. So you ask about the generals, and I'd say that's one of the areas that I'm really going to lean on congressional leaders and folks like that to help me figure out how to navigate that.
If they could get not only the gym membership, but if they could get a personal trainer to help them get started too, which that would add a little bit more expense. But I know that when I was in Colorado Springs and I worked at a gym while I was at the OTC, people would get in car accidents and insurance companies would pay for 10 personal training sessions. But if you could get that and let them get on a plan, because a lot of times otherwise the percentages are they'll start a gym membership and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Odds are it won't. But if they have a plan and they get started and they see results, then it can easily turn into a lifestyle.
Yep, that's right.
For people that are dealing with a friend or family member that has actually committed suicide and now they're struggling with the demons of their own, whether they're in the military or not, that's going to affect you if you know someone that's committed suicide. Is there any plans or current protocols for helping support those people?
Do we specifically, is that our mandate as an organization? Our mandate is to reduce suicide and improve mental health in the military affiliated and veteran population. So it's not a direct strategy, but if you guys know us, if any of our vets are in trouble, even if it's a vet we've never touched is in trouble, we'll deploy our guys in 5 seconds, and they'll be down there to help them. So there's some great organizations out there that have. There's one that is an app I saw called Pop Smoke, which is if you're feeling if you're struggling, there's a different color smokes that you can pop on this app based on your level of struggle, and that based on that which color they pop. They'll send the appropriate resource to that person.
Oh, wow.
So things like that as the tools are developed, I think we'll grab a hold of them, and we'll find ways to integrate them into our program, and we'll have a literal army. If we put 400 through almost already, we have thousands waiting to go through, and as we start partnering into the DoD and other places, we'll have thousands more. And so if you ask about this place and what we're doing here, I envision this as a transition ranch, a health and wellness and performance center, a university of sorts where veterans can come through this thing multiple times on their journey for continued education to become an expert in the field of human performance and wellness. And so,
I want to get into more of the specifics of this beautiful 450 acres. It's awesome out here.
Feels like we should move out here right now.
We're looking for great coaches.
We'll build a gym right there, big barn.
I would definitely. This is awesome. This is kind of where it looks like where I grew up, in the middle of nowhere.
You're back home.
I know. But what is the vision and what are the steps you're about to take on this huge ranch?
So about 2 years ago, as we were looking for communities and places to build our final product, which is ultimately this, we'll call it a university, we linked up with Walmart, and Walmart has a massive veterans initiative and a huge health initiative, and we said, listen, this is an important place for us to explore. So we rented a camp. Our director of operations, Harrison, is from Bentonville, so knows the area, knows the people around town, and we just started networking into the community, and we ran one camp at Camp War Eagle. You guys came to that camp, and just felt like home. And so this has been a vision of mine for probably 3 or 4 years of trying to get something like this built. We've been renting Boy Scout camps. We want a place of our own, a flag to stick in the ground. And so, it's been a couple years of looking for the right spot, and we finally found it. And this place is going to be transformed over the next year or two to be a pretty special spot.
Yeah.
So,
Phases? Are you going to do it in phases or one just big boom?
I'm kind of a big boom guy.
There's only one way to go with him. Every time we talk to you, how the hell is that going to happen? I don't know. Just roll the dice. Make it happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. We've laid out, and you guys, I'll shoot you guys some pictures you can throw into the podcast so people can see what we're building. But, just imagine all these different areas being purposed for different things, all within the health and wellness field. The whole secret sauce of our program is taking them out of the environment into a safe place with all the other awesome vets, and it's not a puppy dog in a cage crying and say feel sorry for our guys. That's quite the opposite. It's simply just a program that is investing in them from a physical, mental, and emotional perspective, and every human being could use that. And so, we're doing it as a pay it forward type of thing versus we don't pity our vets. We are vets who are very proud of our service, and we want to empower them to be part of our amazing community of health, wellness, and performance. And so, this place is going to be the mecca for that. If you are a vet and you are transitioning and you are either unsure of what you want to do with your life or you're struggling in some way, it doesn't mean you're messed up or fucked up. It means you're trying to figure out who you are and where you're going. And that's every 20 to 30, 40-year-old person's trying to figure that out, or should be.
Yeah, when you meet Randy, you don't see that at all. Like, it doesn't look like you pitied him. Like, that dude, you empowered him. Right. He goes into Walmart and does a thing. He just on his own starts this whole initiative. Like, I'm just going to teach people about fitness. They don't even know why I'm here, but I'm about to do a thing. It looks like you gave guys like that purpose, and now they are like becoming like monsters in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, he's like in the beta Walmart in the health clinic teaching people how to squat
on his own.
He's got people in there. He was telling me that their workout plan is to get up and down off the chair 20 times in a day. Like, that is the workout plan. That's who he's able to go in there, and he just had to make it up.
He just made it up on the fly. He's like, I don't know really why I'm here, but I'm going to do something awesome.
How has Walmart really been a part of it? Because I know last time we talked, they have this initiative to have, I want to say it was like 250,000, something like that, employees, or it's some crazy number of veteran employees in there.
Yeah, they hit their goal of 250,000, and I think they've also have a goal of maybe it's 100,000 like affiliated spouses. I mean, they're one of the biggest supporters of veterans in a bunch of different ways, some of it quietly. I think Walmart, as they grow in, all companies, as they grow in health and wellness and the field of health and wellness, you have their employee culture to think about, and then you have the customer culture to think about. And that applies to Walmart, to Best Buy, to Dick's Sporting Goods. Every company should be thinking about how to invest in their people physically, mentally, and emotionally. You want to create culture of a great culture, invest in people, and they'll work 10 times harder for you. And so I think, back to the mental health piece, if you have employees who are all mentally healthy because they're physically healthy and they're emotionally healthy, they're gonna do a better job.
Yeah.
And they'll also appreciate that you invested in them. And so our goal is to work with organizations, whether it be Walmart or the DoD, to help them invest in their people the way that we've now been investing in our people. And I think we created a framework that's going to allow us to make a pretty big impact from the perspective of mental, physical, emotional. Yeah.
When you look at the university structure and that vision that you're building out here, do you see multiple kind of areas, like just Matt Musgrave yesterday, hanging out with him? I think he's one of the most important people in fitness. He controls the supplement industry in a way, and who he's bringing the products to on such a large scale, but nobody ever thinks of him as a fitness person. Like, how do you meet the demands of where we go from 300 to 3,000 to 30,000 people that have been through the program, and taking those individual skill sets and then using that towards improving people's lives and in the fitness space? Is that part of kind of the bigger vision in building the university?
Yeah, I mean, the university is going to produce thousands of, call them soldiers of health and fitness, performance, whatever you want to call them. They have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And, there's, as I was just saying, there's an incredible need inside of every organization for leaders in those areas. And so, our strategy, again, is to reduce suicide and build a community that empowers veterans versus pities them. In order to do that, we need partners who share that vision. There's some leaders out there in the commerce space, like Walmart, who obviously get that. They're investing in veterans for a reason. They're good workers. They understand, service and culture, and they came from that. And so, we're going to work with the organizations that see it, and those that don't will eventually see it, because they're going to fall behind in terms of the value equation in customer service and commerce.
Is there any data on the efficacy of your program yet? Is it working at a great rate, good rate? Or?
Yeah, we've got over 300 graduates, and we've not lost one to suicide.
That's a good number.
So
zero.
I think the data you're talking about with Spark, the doctor who's doing this research, there's tons and tons of research out there on the effect of mental health, physical health, and mental health. We want to formalize that around our vocational programs so that we can actually go to Congress and say, hey, we reduce suicide and we improve mental health, and we reduce costs of healthcare. That's an easy one. So I think, over the next 2 or 3 years, the mandate of the foundation will be to continue to do that work, to provide scholarships to come to the university, to do research with top universities like ASU, Harvard, who these guys are doing some of that work already, and then to provide entrepreneurial grants so that the two things that every graduate says to me when they leave on their exit interview: I want to help other vets, and I want to open my own gym someday. So give them the ability to do that.
Yeah.
So our foundation is going to be scaling and aggregating funds to be able to actually help them become entrepreneurs.
And what rate are people? What is the suicide rate? Normally for a person.
Pre-COVID, it was 22 veterans a day, which is nearly twice the civilian rate. Obviously, that's a terrible number.
Terrible.
The early data is that it's up 30%. So add 6 vets to that. So it's 28, 30 vets a day. While we're standing here, 1 vet's killed himself.
There's a freight train of mental health issues coming.
Where is that data? Why is no one talking about that?
Yeah, it's like the only way you find out about that is by people doing push-ups on social media. Yeah. It's like the only.
But the majority of veteran organizations out there are well-intended, but most of them are what I'll call give a man a fish, he eats for a day. I want to empower them.
Amen.
Give them the ability to serve again by teaching them to fish.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference between what we're doing and what a lot of other organizations are doing. And so
when we were out here, I got completely leveled by the hard work, the honesty, like the brutal honesty of everybody that walks through the doors, because you just can't fake it. I think there was a few people that we saw at the beginning that were kind of like half in, half out, and then a day into it, and everyone's bought in. Yeah. It's just there's a level of just authenticity and honesty that goes along with when people stand up in front of you and just bare their soul. You can't hide from it.
Matt, have you ever? You made such a good point about the whole, give a man a fish, he gets to eat that time, but like teach him, and he can feed himself forever. But like, why is no one talking about that as well? They're like, oh, we need to give this people money, we need to give this.
Yeah,
when does that ever work?
Because fundraising is puppies in a cage of sad music. And so what we've done as a society is
puppies in a cage. Yeah.
We basically put veterans in a cage and played sad music. Look how fucked up he is. Oh my God.
They don't want that.
Combat messed him all up. It's not that's like the worst thing you can do to a vet who's proud of their service. Pity and pride don't go together
at all.
Yeah. So what you've done is disenfranchised 20 million veterans, and 2 million of them have become, I'll take free shit. So you've got an entitled group of veterans who are more than happy to take the house or the car or the tickets to a concert or a retreat riding horses. That stuff's all great, but it's not empowering them to use their skills to serve.
Yeah.
So my whole heart and belief is that these are some of our best assets as a country, and we've got to give them the pathway to be successful.
Right. I agree. Wouldn't you say that pity would probably add to the suicide rate?
100%.
Yes. Yeah. Like if someone feels sorry for me, it makes me feel like, this tall. I think men in general, wouldn't you agree that men in general want to, I feel like we're put on the earth to protect our families, to protect our friends, and like to empower our children. And then when you start feeling sorry for me, I feel like that would put me in a black,
So what you just
place.
said, amplify it by 300 times. You come home from deployment, you've been protecting your country, you've been taking care of your family, and they're all proud of your home. And all of a sudden, you start to feel pity from everybody around you. You've gone from here to here. Yeah. And it's an identity issue because you don't identify with a broke, weak, pitied person. But every civilian, no offense to civilians, most civilians actually think that every vet's fucked up from combat, and it's just not true. They're struggling to reorient into civilian life for many reasons. Some of those reasons are combat and the pressure of deployment, but it's not universally that they're all messed up from it. They're just transitioning from a chaotic, in some ways chaotic career protecting our country to a civilian who has to use those. They have to come back to the real world and yeah, they got to get through some PTSD. They got to get through some struggle, and
Right.
that's normal of any transition. I don't care.
Yeah,
This is
the NFL boys have the same thing.
problem.
Yeah, same
These guys
problem.
are idolized for their whole careers, high school stars.
Yeah.
They've done all these amazing things, and
Now
then
they got to get a job.
and now they got to come back and get a job. A lot of these guys, just didn't manage their money correctly, or
Right.
they just they had trauma trauma from childhood. They covered it up by Super Bowls and all the different things that these guys experience.
bling,
Big cars,
The
big
bling.
houses.
It's the same thing as
Yeah.
coming back from combat. These guys are covering up and compartmentalizing, and then they hit rock bottom, and that's where suicide.
Would you say that the suicide is more directly related to the pity than it is to the PTSD?
I don't think I'm qualified to make that kind of. I don't have the data to back that up. I would say it's a big contributor
Right.
to the general narrative. That's
Yeah.
that's an issue in this country.
It's an identity issue.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, they go from
I mean, imagine, you're. I mean, I am civilians. I have no idea, but I can imagine that I'm in this battle. I'm protecting my buddy. We got each other's backs. We're fighting off these people, and now I'm working a job. I'm a accountant.
yeah.
Yeah.
That would be, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty normal struggle. Hey guys, I could do this all day. I've actually got to get on the phone with the general
Yep.
now, so
Beautiful.
I need to wrap
yeah,
it up.
I've been watching the clock here to make sure we
Go
we get
talk to
you
the general, man. Yeah.
Fundraising and how can people be a part of this that hear this and
I mean,
to help as much as they
I'm gonna shoot you guys some pictures so the folks out there can see what we're building. I mean, obviously the foundation is a nonprofit. Our work is coming currently from donations. Anything that anybody can do, donating time, donating money, donating intelligence, whatever you have out there that could benefit this program, reach out. There's a website at fitops.org.
Yep.
You can donate there. You can send an email there. We'll take all the help we can get.
Yep, Fitops Foundation on Instagram. Harrison's on there.
Yep.
Coach Travis Mash.
Mashley.com, but go hang out with
Yeah,
him.
he's the important one.
Don't go to Mashley.com. Go to there.
Doug Larson.
You bet. Matt, a lot of respect for you and everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on the
Thank
show. Find me on
Personally,
Instagram.
man, I just want to say thank you for bringing us and letting us be a part of this ecosystem from
my
just
pleasure.
being here, being able to bring the cameras out and show our audience where you guys are building your home, and then just the fact that you respect us and we respect you, and we're in this game together to make as big of an
I
impact as
respect
we can.
everything about you but your bicycle game. You get
I'm all jacked up. If you're watching this on
Weak.
YouTube right now,
Yeah.
maybe I'll redeem myself out here. Barbell Shrugged, at Barbell Shrugged. I'm Anders Varner at Anders Varner. Get over to the FitOps. Help. Let's make this thing as cool as we can out here and build a FitOps university. We'll see you guys next week.